This is the 2024 Ford Expedition Platinum. It's also the Max and the regular black metallic paint, which up close looks really, really nice. And in this video, you're going to learn the basics of what you need to know about the ride. I'm going to touch on the differences between the trim levels, show you what's going on underneath the hood, interior, exterior styling and technology, and things like that. But if you're looking for a fuller in-depth walkthrough on how to use the steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen, the new Sync 4 media screen, you'll find those walkthroughs down in the description of this video. But let's dive in, unpack this thing, and figure out what the Expedition has to offer. You're going to find anywhere between 18 and 22-inch wheels inside of the Expedition with varying styles depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're looking at. The 22s here, they look nice, but I'm always a fan of black wheels. And I think with this black metallic paint, a black wheel would look so much nicer. As always, you're going to find the Expedition either 4x2 or 4x4, depending on if you're in Canada versus the States. There are a few different types of suspension you're going to find for the Expedition too. Like when you get into the Timberline version, that's meant more for off-road purposes. So there are smaller wheels and then off-road tuned suspension on top of that. You're going to find different available technology that's going to be trim level specific, like the forward sensing system. It's not available across the entire vehicle lineup, and neither is the full 360 camera. It's available in most of them though. So the side view mounted cameras and forward facing camera work in tandem with the backup camera for those 360 views. Really useful because of how big this thing is. And one really nice thing is that Park Assist is actually back now. So I know that they were running into issues late 2022 and 2023 models. There were units getting shipped without Park Assist. So it looks like that issue has now been solved for the 2024 models. There are a few different types of grills that you're going to find inside of the Expedition. LED headlamps with your fog lamps down there too. You're also going to find 2 tow hooks in the front. And you've got this, the 3.5 liter turbo V6 engine. Power output is going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in, because it's not as high in the XL and the XLT as it is compared to the King Ranch, the Platinum, or even the Timberline and the Stealth Performance package. So when you get into those other packages, the output is it's a night and day difference in comparison to the base models. It's the same 3.5 V6, it's just mapped differently. If you want the best possible performance, the Timberline is the way to go. And you also want to try to use a 93 octane ideally, because the horsepower and torque specs that you're looking at are all achieved using a premium fuel. Like Ford uses a 94 octane, it's just not necessary. And the warranty inside of Ford vehicles is pretty solid. You're looking at a 3-year, 36,000 mile basic or 60,000 K. And then there's a 5-year, 60,000 mile or 100,000 kilometer powertrain, which is pretty respectable. One thing you're still not going to find though, still no hybrid available as an option. Filling up fuel inside of the Expedition is also straightforward, and it's along the driver's side. Unlocked cover with a capless system. And minimum manufacturer's recommendation inside of this thing is just regular 87 octane. So you don't need to use a premium fuel inside of it. But having said that, I did point out the horsepower and torque specs are all achieved using a premium fuel. So do you need to use one? No, but if you want the best possible performance, especially inside of the 3.5 liter high output, you absolutely want to shoot for like minimum 91. You just don't have to if you don't want to. The lamps in the back end do feature little black bezels throughout, and then there's some just like nice highlights, like this nice metallic highlight that goes all the way throughout. Matches really nicely with the Expedition badge there. Along the bottom right side, you can see Max badge, Platinum badge. So just depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in, that's going to dictate which badge you have. There is some standard technology that you're going to find inside of this thing. So you're always going to have the rear wiper, rear camera, and then the rear sensing system. So that's always standard, along with spare tire that's located just underneath the vehicle. Now, one thing to point out, this thing does have the HD tow package. So towing inside of the Expedition is going to range all over the place. Are you 4x2 versus 4x4? Are you in the Max versus the Shorty instead? So you're maxing out at 9,300 pound towing capacity, which is respectable. Now, one thing you may have noticed, there's a little handle there. So if you go right underneath the eye in Expedition, so the first eye, and drop down, you can push in order to open up the glass. It's nice, you could technically ride with that up. So if you've got like 2x4s and things like that throughout the back end, you got that flexibility. And then getting into the actual gate itself. So there's a few different ways that you can do it. There's a button to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You've got the flexibility of using the key fob if you want to. So you double press this button to get in. You've also got the option for pushing there in order to lift this thing up. Now obviously the Expedition is a beast of a vehicle, so that liftgate, it does go pretty high. So if your garage is a little bit lower, or if you need a little bit more height, or if you need this to be a bit lower in order to close, you could just drop down if you want to. And then if you just press and hold, that's going to make sure that it doesn't go past this point. But that is going to be the height default for the vehicle. Towards the back, there's not too much back here. Along the right side, there's a 12-volt power point, some USB power points in the third row, little light. Along this side, you've got releases for the second and third row seats. So the third row seat is power up and down. Second row seat is a power down, but it's a manual back up. You can go left side or right side independently, or you can do both sides at the same time. So before I show you that, there's one other thing to point out. Right here, you can lift this up. Then you crank this. Ooh, right, let's go up and over. There we go. It's got like little tiered storage, which is kind of cool. A little bit of storage space underneath. And then this, lift up in order to get access to the jack stand and the white spigot. So if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can, you want to insert that into the fuel tank first. That's good. Now, you do have the flexibility of changing the tire out yourself if you want to, but you've also got forward roadside assistance. And I mentioned, so the spare tire is located just underneath the vehicle. It's nice. Now, folding the seats down. So the third row seats you can only fold down from the back here, so there's no release for the third row. So if you were to lower the seat down, simple button press will do it. You can see there, so nice and simple. And instead, folding down the second row seat is straightforward. So along the back, you can do the same. So it's just a power release in order to drop down. And when you do it, it just opens things up so nicely. It just gives you a boatload of available cargo space. But if you wanted to fold down the second row seats and you didn't want to go through the cargo area, what you could do, I love that, power running boards. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, boom. Love it. You could technically lock these things down permanently if you want, but for the seats. So back up it goes. And then if you wanted to fold it down, so there's a release there, you're just going to pull in order to fold that seat down. Like I said, when you do, it just opens things up so nicely inside of this thing. And then lifting the third row seat up again. So going to go power. So power up, which is straightforward. The only thing that's not going to be power up for the third row are going to be the headrests. So after you've got it there, push, or pull I should say, and you're good to go. In the 2024 model, you're still going to find the Expedition available as the regular length or the max, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. But the max, it's kind of ridiculous. Like a little bit of a longer vehicle, you get more cargo space as well. So the way that you go is going to depend on what you need. Taking a peek along the driver's side, love the mirror cap there. It's also featuring turn signals, and there's the side view mounted cameras for that full 360 view. The mirrors are going to be power folding, heated, and they also feature the blind spot monitoring system. So that's going to highlight there if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Typical Ford styling with the 5-digit number pad there. So you can push the bottom 2 to lock the doors, enter in your 5-digit number in order to get in without your key fob. You can press the little hamburger icon there in order to lock the doors, or slide your hand in as long as you've got the fob on you in order to unlock. The running boards there, you do have the flexibility of being able to lock them down permanently through the media screen there. I love this. Nice stitching, follows all the way throughout the dash, the driver's seat, beautiful platinum badge, but we'll get to the interior in a second. Along the side, there is driver's seat memory. And one cool thing is it's tied to a few things. So you can set up your side view mirror, steering wheel, and the driver's seat the way that you want to. And then you're going to press and hold 1, 2, or 3 for it to remember your own personal profile. Got all of your basic controls, and as mentioned, hello, power folding side view mirrors with your basic window controls. Nothing crazy there, but this one is the upgraded 22 speaker system, which I'll let you listen to in a second. On top of that, you've got a little bit of door storage. There's a little map highlight, and then some basics. So this one is, I honestly, I think it's super random, but it controls the third row headrests. So you could power fold them from right there. Open and close the lift gate, turn on the zone lighting on the side view mirrors. figure out what's going on with the running lamps. As always, just recommended in the auto mode. Fog lamp control, and then you can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen there too. You've got electronic parking brake, and then best part for short people that are riding in the Expedition, power adjustable pedals. Really useful. The seat, few different styles and types that are available just depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. So King Ranch is going to be a little bit more unique, Platinum a little bit more unique from there. But along the side, you can adjust the seat out for power seats to go forwards, backwards, up and down. You've got adjustable backrest there, and then two-way adjustable for the lumbar support itself. This is nice, and the seats are really comfortable in the first row here. A headrest, four-way adjustable, so you can find that perfect position for you. Seats, nice, wiggle test definitely there. And you're going to find a few different style seats inside of the Expedition and a few different color choices too. And that even goes for the configuration, which I'll touch on in the second row. But some of the colors are pretty unique. Cloth seats, vinyl seats, ActiveX seating material, full leather seats, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. The Platinum seats are obviously a little bit more unique, but there is the option for, like even the King Ranch is a pretty unique and nice seat at the same time. Heated seats pretty much at a minimum across the board, but there is the option for ventilated first row too, which is definitely a nice thing. This is good. There's so much space inside of this thing. Like with the seat hole, the first row seat, as far down as it's gonna go, what's that, 4.5, almost 5 inches of headspace. So if you're like 6'6", 6'7", and taller, you'll probably be able to sit inside of this thing no problem. And that goes for the first and for the second row too. Nice, simple startup. Beautiful. All right, so steering wheel inside of the Expedition is going to be power in some of the higher trims of the vehicle, and it's going to be manual telescoping inside of some of the other ones. So you could easily adjust the steering wheel out that way. It's also going to be heated, which you can turn on just through the Sync 4A media screen down there. But if you want a full walkthrough, like you want to know how to use all the different steering wheel buttons, move through the cluster screen, or use the Sync 4A media screen, check down in the description of the video for that walkthrough instead. But I'll take you through some basics. Stick on the left-hand side, you can adjust what's going on at the front, and then rear windshield wipers on top of that. Adaptive cruise control, you've got a few voice command prompts there, voice command prompt there as well, and then volume adjusting buttons. Buttons on this side to change between songs, radio stations, answer or hang up on a phone call, and then move through the fully digital cluster screen. Oh yeah, it's good. There are a few different drive modes that are available that I'll touch on in just a second. But as you saw there, you are going to be push button start inside of the Expedition. Pro Trailer Backup Assist. So if you've got a trailer connected and you're going to back up, rather than counter steering the steering wheel, all you're going to do is just twist this the way that you want the trailer to turn, and it's going to turn the wheel for you automatically. There's the integrated brake controller because this one has the heavy duty tow package. Overhead, you can just maybe kind of make it out there. So Ford's BlueCruise. So BlueCruise services are available. You've got 1 year as a default with the option for purchasing 3 years up front if you want to. So BlueCruise is going to be a paid subscription service. And it's actually the same way with factory navigation now inside of the 2024 models. So last year it was a connected built-in nav where after the 3 years of service was up, you'd still be able to use this as a traditional GPS. The downside though is in 2024, it's only 1 year of connected service, which means that after the year is up, if you don't go to renew the service, this becomes a dead map that just follows the vehicle around as you drive. You still have the flexibility of hooking up through Android devices to use Google Maps or Apple to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze, and that's through Apple CarPlay. It's a wireless connection, but you could still use a USB if you wanted to. But if you want to walk through on how to actually connect for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, things like that, you'll find that walkthrough down in the description of this video. But the screen here, outside of the one thing with factory navigation, I love it. It's a great screen, very intuitive, user-friendly, big, beautiful screen. Home icon along the very top brings you to a series of options that are available. So you've got radio, phone, navigation, entertainment, so there are different games that are available. There's no option of playing video through this screen when you're parked as of yet. Like, fingers crossed it hopefully comes, but it's not currently available. One thing about the games is that if you're in drive, the games are non-usable. So you've got to make sure that you're parked in order to be able to use them. But there are so many amazing options inside of this screen. Hopping inside there, tons of different options for the vehicle itself. So like basics for driver assistance settings. You've got the option for the adaptive cruise, and you can set like intelligent cruise control and things like that. There's a button for a 360 camera. So you've got a 360 view. There's a hitch view. So if you're backing up for a trailer, front view, front split view, and then a rear view as well. And you can also toggle off the park sensing system if you don't like it. Like I said, so many options. Inside of this, so you've got AM, FM, Sirius XM. If you had a phone connected over Bluetooth, you could stream audio that way. If you had a USB stick with MP3s, you could also plug yourself in. And there are 2 USB data ports down the center stack there. So even if you're charging your phone if you don't want to use the wireless charge pad, you could technically just insert your USB cable and just run Android Auto, Apple CarPlay that way instead if you want. One thing that I would recommend with the actual audio itself is you want to make sure you go to your audio settings. So you're going to go sound, tone settings, and I normally recommend dropping the treble by like 2 to 3 points and then cranking the bass by like 3 points. That generally is going to give you really good audio inside of this. And this is just coming right out of the speaker, right out of the microphone itself. So there's no post-processing done whatsoever.
Afloat, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration.
The audio inside of this thing is ridiculous, and there are quite a few different options available when it comes to the actual speaker system inside of it. And you're maxing out at a 22 speaker system. The sound is just ridiculous. Like even when you get into that mid-range B&O, it's still pretty good, but the 22 speaker, it's just like it's just like a step above. It is such a great system. Climate control are baked right into the screen itself. So you've got dual zone climate control, can have it different for the driver passenger. Once you've selected climate there, you could then also use the knob in order to be able to rotate. That's the same thing for the driver and for the passenger side. There's auto mode. You can have the climate going to windshield face feet. You can control the rear climate there on top of that. So you could lock it out so that people in the rear can't use the rear climate control, but you can adjust fan speed and things like that. Dropping down there, technically, so you can see there, the option for heated and ventilated first row seats. So you could toggle it on this way if you want to. With climate being baked right into the screen, you could just press this way if you want to, but you could also use the voice command prompt if you wanted to adjust climate controls that way instead. So I know some people are a big fan of not having tactile buttons, but at the same time, being able to use your voice by pressing the button on the steering wheel is also really beneficial once you get the hang of it. But through the screen itself, there's an option for Ford Assistant and then command help. So you can go through in order to figure out exactly what the vehicle can do. So like I said, adjusting climate settings, playing media and things like that. Moving down, this is typically going to be closed, but actually a few buttons there. So auto start stop, that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if you're stopped for an extended period of time. There are 4-way blinkers there, traction control, and then your max windshield defroster. It's a little 12-volt power point off to the side. And as I mentioned, so this tray, there, it's beautiful. So that's a push. You definitely want to make sure that you don't pull so you're not breaking the locking mechanism. There are a few USB power points, so USB-A, USB Type-C, and a wireless charge pad. So some versions of the Expedition aren't going to have it. It's just going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. A few cup holders there that don't feature ambient light, but you will find ambient light in a few different parts of the vehicle. See there with the shifter, you've got park, reverse, neutral, drive. You can have it into a manual mode there instead. Straightforward, plus or minus if you wanted to adjust your gears out. There's also rear locking diff, 2 high, 4 auto, 4 low, and 4 high. So the basics there, you're going to want to be in 2 high the majority of the time. If it's snowing outside, ideally 4 high, but you can also do 4 auto instead. And then 4 low if you're pulling a boat out of water, off-roading, heavy towing, things like that. And a series of different drive modes. Then as you move through the drive modes, it changes up the dynamic look of the cluster screen. But I mean, look at that. Beautiful. My favorite is obviously sport mode, but you've got the flexibility of adjusting out as you go. But each one of these drive modes is going to play with driving dynamics, traction, stability control. Some of them might drop you into 4 auto, whatever the case may be. There's hill descent control, and then also a button for park assist. So this is back. Beautiful. So active park assist, that can help you out with parallel parking, perpendicular parking, and parallel park out. But if you want a walkthrough on how that system works, you'll find it down in the description of the video. Armrest there, so it does feature a few cup holders. This thing is fully lockable as well, just using the emergency access key in the fob. Lifting up, there's a fully removable tray, and then the only thing to point out is just a 12-volt power point down there. Shifting to the side, so little glove box, it's also lockable. A decent amount of storage space. Very F-150-esque, so there's a little storage tray along the top there too. The Expedition does feature an auto-dimming rear view mirror, series of controls for cabin lights, and then there's also panoramic sunroof. So single button press opens the shade up halfway. Secondary button press is going to open it up the rest of the way. I mean, I love that. Like, it's so ridiculous. It just opens it up so nicely. You can vent out the roof if you want to, or close to open up. Single button press opens this thing up pretty much the full way. Secondary button press opens it up that last teeny little bit. I mean, that is nice. So that's as far as it's going to open. So it's full panoramic, but it's only half the glass that opens. Still pretty solid. Then single button press. Closes that. Beauty. Honestly, I usually just go around with the shade open. I've never really actually opened up the roof. It's just really nice to have this thing open. From there, we've got a sunglasses holder, a few sensors there. Got a visor with HomeLink systems, so if you've got a garage door opener at home, you can program it in. So a little receipt, ticket holder, vanity mirror, has lights built in, and then this thing extends out. Oh, look at this, blocking all of the sun that could be hitting your face. There's no assist handle over top there. It's just on the one side there for the driver and the passenger side, first and for the second row. With the seat set up the way that I would traditionally drive the vehicle, inside of the second row, I've got a great amount of foot space, great amount of knee space. And up overhead, with the seat fully upright, 1.5 inches, maybe 2-ish inches of head space. There are some pockets behind both the driver and the passenger side inside of the first row. Mentioned there, you're going to find a few cup holders. And then there's a little console control down there. So you've got a few different things that you can do. But firstly, a few power points. So there's 2 USB Type-C, regular 150 watt wall plug. And then there's a 12-volt power point down below there too, with a teeny little bit of storage. And then a series of different controls. So you can adjust the volume from the inside, change out media. So if you wanted to go AM, FM, Sirius XM. So it's essentially whatever sources are available inside of the vehicle there. So if you've hooked up through a phone, USB stick, things like that, it'll rotate through all of them. You can have it for a simple clock view, and then you can also seek out. So if you're on FM, AM, etc., you can adjust out that way. You could control the climate from the second row there, toggle it off. You can also have it go into the face feed, etc. There's the option for second row heated seats inside of this thing. So no ventilated second, strictly a heated second row, but it's strictly going to be for the outboard seats. So even if you had the full bench seat here, the middle seat is never going to be heated. The seat comfort is definitely here. So much room, and this seat is as far back as it's going to go. And I mean, even with it as far forward, so if you needed lots of space for people in the third row, even with it that way, so much leg space. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Now, whether you go for the bench configuration or the dual captain's chairs is going to be a matter of personal preference. I personally like the dual captain's chairs because you can easily shimmy into the third row. So that's really nice. And I mean, look at this. So the seat's as far back as it's going to go, and I've got space. Got foot space, knee space. Not bad. Now, could you fit 3 full-size versions of me inside of the third row? Probably not. And like, this seat, definitely not comfortable, but you've at least got tether points and anchors and things like that. So anchors there, tethers in the back, first, second row, etc. Seat's not bad. It's all right, little wiggle test. Definitely not as comfortable, but the bench seat there actually isn't bad. Second row seat's comfy. First row seats, way better. But one nice thing about the third row seats, so they are technically locked into place. You can't slide them forwards or backwards like the second row, but there is a little recline. So it doesn't recline it much, but that's essentially like max recline with it forward versus max recline with it backwards instead. So gives you a teeny little bit of a recline, nothing too crazy. From there, actually, go down. So you've got a few USB ports. So there's one there, one along the side, a few cup holders there, basic vent control, some cabin light controls, and then there's also a seat belt for the middle seat, so you can lock that up. So traditionally, you're going to find it down, but you could lock it up if you didn't want the person in this seat getting the seatbelt, hitting their head on the seatbelt there. But if you didn't have the option with the dual captain's chair, so if you had the bench seat, easiest way to get out from the top there, and push. In order to get out. I love how big of a vehicle this is. Like it's absurdly large. But if you need seating for 7 or 8 people, this thing's got you covered. You could technically look at the Explorer, but if you don't need a ton of people in your vehicle, depending on what your towing needs are, like if you have no towing needs, I'd probably recommend looking at the Explorer ST. The Expedition is loaded with different technology. One of my favorites is going to be Ford's BlueCruise system that was introduced a couple years ago, but that is fully hands-free driving. So it's different because there's the adaptive cruise control system, which is your set it and forget it, like your stop and go cruise control. But the BlueCruise is complete hands-free driving. So with the adaptive cruise, it's got lane centering. So technically it'll like take you around basic bends and things like that, but you need to make sure that your hand is still technically gripping the wheel. With BlueCruise, fully hands-free driving though. So you could be driving on 400 series highways in Canada, all throughout the states, like different interstates and things like that, and you can drive fully hands-free. You can't be sleeping though. So there are cameras that watch your eyes, and if you're not paying attention, it's going to let you know that the system's just going to deactivate. So unfortunately, don't have the full hands-free. Well, you won't, not unfortunately, like you shouldn't be sleeping and driving, but we're not there just yet. But their hands-free drive system is great. Woo! Power when you need it. Damn. Oh, that Expedition is fun. I can see why people love these bigger engines. That's something I've always been a fan of, like across the whole Ford lineup. I love certain Ford vehicles, like the Edge ST has a 2.7 liter turbo. The Explorer ST has a 3 liter turbo. This thing's got a 3.5 liter turbo, just like beasts across the board. Like, especially when you get into the high output 3.5 engine, if performance is what you crave, the Ford Performance lineup is something that you should seriously consider. I know some people aren't crazy about the idea of turbocharged engines, but they have come a very, very long way from where turbocharged engines used to be. The driving dynamics, it's responsive. It's in the sport mode right now, but I mean, that's good. And that was a quick look at the 2024 Ford Expedition. Platinum Max specifically, but I hope you learned a thing or two about the entire Expedition lineup. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. And check out the description for a build link for this specific Expedition and all the tech walkthrough videos that you might need and the contact details for Formula Ford if you want to order one of these bad boys. But if you found this thing useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care.